Welcome to our December 27th edition of GoldandBlack.com Saturday Simulcast. I'll be joined here shortly by Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison. We're going to talk a little Purdue football. Brian Newbert will bring us up to men's basketball as the Boilermakers take on Kent State on Monday night. I'm so screwed up with the way the calendar is. I barely know what day it is. It's so but that game will be on December 29th, Purdue Kent State. At 7 p.m. in Mackey Arena. A lot to talk about on the football front, and I haven't had Dub and Tom in for a little bit of time, so we want to get caught up on the wonderful world of Purdue football and that transfer portal window opening on the 2nd of January. But I want to also thank the Union Club Hotel at Purdue. An autograph collection retreat blends student-run hospitality with resort luxury. Enjoy the spa, Boiler House Prime Dining, and Burke Boilermaker Golf. Perfect. Dub would like to get out on that golf course. It's 60 degrees in Lafayette, so it's not all that bad, but a little wet for golf. But what a great golf complex that is there. Perfect for wellness and Purdue fans as well as leisure seekers. Our property offers serene escapes. Book your getaway at the Union Club Hotel and Autograph Collection as well. All right, we'll bring in my colleagues here, and we're trying to improve a little bit on the production quality of this. So bear with me because I'm the director and chief bottle washer here, and that can be dangerous. But gentlemen, it is a couple days after Christmas. It's the calm before the storm, though a lot has been going on with the Purdue portal movement, or at least guys on this that have declared they're going in. But Tom, I'll start with you. Again, it's obviously critical to Coach Barry Odom in year 2 to be able to get what he needs. And yet when that portal window opens, there's going to be a lot of activity. But what's the latest on some of the numbers in terms of guys that are in, and what maybe what your expectations are heading into the first week of January?
Yeah, 13 players intend to enter the portal, which opens January 2nd for a couple weeks. Most of the guys are largely kind of shoulder shruggers. That's okay. But there's 3 guys that I think when you heard they were jumping in the portal sort of made you go, wow, that's unfortunate. Those are 3 guys who could really afford to retain if they can. Chops Harkless, of course, the giant nose tackle. Hank Purvis, who really came on late last year, sort of started the last half of the year at guard over Ethan Trent. And then Smiley Bradford, the young defensive back, nickel back from East St. Louis. Those are 3 guys. I remember I did a quick story a week or 2 ago on players I thought they needed to retain, and those were 3 guys. And we'll see that it doesn't look good. I don't expect them back. And we'll see. We have still obviously a long time these guys can still jump in. I wouldn't be shocked if we see more guys jumping in here, obviously. Maybe some big names too. So we'll see where this goes, guys. I guess for some reason I just don't have a real good vibe overall for their ability to retain players. And I still really wonder about their war chest, honestly, their ability to get guys out of the portal. It's awfully competitive and costs an awful lot of money to get good players.
Yeah, Pete Nakos wrote something on 3. I think might have shown up on Friday just on the going rate, and who knows for sure exactly what reality is, but those numbers are daunting. I mean, when you talk about even edge rushers from quarterbacks in that $3 million, $750,000 to $3 million range, that is a big question. And Dub, your take on this early thing, you cover obviously recruiting, but watch this extremely closely too. But it is a daunting time for Purdue football.
Yeah, and I think this is a pivotal offseason for Barry Odom. Obviously, 2025 didn't go the way that he envisioned, and his message from when he took the job of he's going to flip this thing really fast. The results weren't there, but now Purdue's got an opportunity to go out and get some guys and fill the holes on the roster. So that's exactly what they're going to have to do. I kind of echo the sentiments of Tom. Is this portal thing is uber competitive, and you're going to have to overpay for guys that you really want. That's just the reality of it. Everyone's going to have to do it. there's no hometown discounts when you're out on the open market. So, they're gonna have to go out and potentially overpay for some guys, which I think is pretty common, especially coming off of having 3 wins over the last 2 years. I don't know how excited guys are going to be to go to Purdue, but there's opportunity in West Lafayette, and I think Barry Odom and his staff have shown that they can sell kind of their vision and how they plan on getting Purdue back to its winning ways. So we're gonna see how it shakes out. I'm excited for it. This is my favorite time of the year, but it'll be very, very
Martin, buddy. No, it is. All right. And the quarterback question is an interesting one. And you guys have both talked about this, Ryan Brown, as you see here. Tom is, it's so hard to be totally make the full evaluation on Ryan Brown and where this program is. But it seems to me, if all things are the same, that Purdue needs to have competition in that quarterback room. Ryan Brown did do some good things early on, struggled at the back half of the season. But Tom, it seems to me that Purdue seems to be somewhat committed to him, but also you think they're going to have to go into the portal to get another quarterback. What say you on that?
Yeah, number one, I think you have to retain your players that you want.
Yeah.
Because you already know who they are, what they are, how they play, right? They're known commodities to you. They know your system.
Right.
That's got to be job number one before you start fishing around for guys in the portal. So Ryan Brown's a guy I think Dub and I both feel fairly strong saying that he'll be back. I think they're going to ride or die with number 15. That's not going to maybe please some people watching this, but
yeah,
we think he's going to be the guy. And yeah, there's goods and bads about Ryan Brown. We all watched him. We know about the leadership, the savvy, the toughness, the athletic ability. I think sometimes he maybe tries to play some hero ball, maybe forces passes. I think sometimes maybe he feels he's compelled to try to make something happen. I can understand that.
Yeah.
But we also understand too, right, that it's not like he was surrounded with a lush collection of skill position talent, right? The receiving room was dubious at best. Just a real lack of playmakers. Beyond, Michael Jackson was okay. Nitro Tug was sort of teased. He could be that guy, but he's not that guy yet. And then ended up playing E.J. Horton a lot, just another guy. And then the tight end room was an absolute abomination after George Burhan left. Nothing there, just de facto offensive lineman for the most part. And the running backs were solid. So again, Ryan Brown could use better skill position talent to enhance him. And then the line too, right? The most important part of any offense is the line. And the line was very inconsistent this year. So again, Ryan Brown did the best with what he had. And Alan, as far as getting another quarterback out of the portal, I agree. I think he needs some competition. Now, how much money do you want to devote to the quarterback spot, though? Mm-hmm. That's the conundrum, right? From what I hear, Ryan Brown's already pretty well paid. How much money does Purdue want to devote to the quarterback position? Does it want to spend? Can it afford to spend another $1 million on a quarterback? I just don't know. So they may end up getting another Malachi Singleton type guy. Right now Bennett Merritt is supposed to be back, and of course Garrett Odom is going to be back, and then Evans Chuba, right? And then bringing in the freshman. So I think they need somebody else. What happens if, God forbid, Ryan Brown gets hurt? So again, we'll see what they do at the quarterback spot as far as bringing in competition. It's going to be very interesting to see, but I think somebody's going to come in. But again, I think that somebody's just going to be sort of an unproven commodity at this point, which I guess may not excite the fan base either.
Dub, obviously they took a quarterback in the class as well, not expecting him to be necessarily ready to go. But your take on this, because obviously at any school, I mean, look at just going up and down the list of teams. The best teams have really good quarterbacks. That's the dumbest understatement of the year here. But what do you see there, and anything to add to the fray on that comment?
Yeah, I kind of look at Ryan Brown's season as he basically had 2 completely different seasons mixed in one. The first 5 or 6 games. I know the turnovers were still there, but I thought he played well, and I considered him a guy that you could win with. You look back at the Ball State game, even Notre Dame and Illinois and USC. I know USC had the three picks, but I thought he played pretty well, especially for being a first-time starter. And then, after that Northwestern game, things really fell apart for him. He just didn't seem like his normal self. Decision making wasn't there, in my opinion, and I don't know how much of that was injury. I know he got banged up in the Northwestern game, but from that point on, he didn't look like the same guy to me. So I think Purdue could be banking on him to regain that first half of the season form and be the guy for them going forward. I think there's something to be said of their commitment to him throughout the season. And I think, if you're a team like Purdue, as Tom mentioned earlier, you have to retain your own guys. And that means you got to develop your own guys. So if you can develop your own quarterback over 2-3 years, I think that's what you want if you're Purdue. I don't know if you're going to necessarily go out and get, you see some of the names that are going to be out there on the open market already. I don't know if, Purdue's going to be able to shell out the cash to get some of those guys. So I think the bulk of their roster is going to have to be homegrown, and Ryan Brown certainly fits that, and I think he's talented enough. I think it's just a matter of, can he put it together over 12 games? And I also agree. I think they need to bring in another guy, if for nothing else, to add competition, which I kind of expect them to do.
The rev share world and of course NIL, all this talk about that, which is very hard to tell what's reality. But if you have that whole situation too of that rev share money and being able to prioritize it, there's such a premium to that. And you're right. When you have a quarterback like Tom said that you've paid a fair amount of money for, and Ryan Brown, can you afford to get another one? Is in that realm is a tough question that makes it an interesting world that we're living in here. You guys,
I think that the difference, you got to have that pile of NIL cash.
Yeah.
And I get the sense that's not Purdue doesn't have that pile of NIL cash. They're trying to promise guys they can make NIL. Come to Purdue, you can make NIL. That's sort of the sense I get. And man, I guess that's really not how the game's played.
Yeah, it's going to be
the proof's going to be in the pudding here. Let's see who they sign. That's going to tell us all we need to know.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's going to be determined over the next couple months, because you're right. There's that great debate over NIL. You're supposed to have to do something for that money and have it approved and all that. But is that really a reality of what we're seeing around the country? Tom brings up a point that is being debated literally everywhere of where we are with this. Are there any guardrails? Are there any anything that comes into that, and that certainly is going to impact that. All right, next topic, guys. The staffing shakeup. We got Kevin Kane, a picture of Kevin Kane and Dylan Thieneman that pulled up from a couple of years ago, but certainly a surprise move, at least to me, that Kevin Kane's returning is that, and of course the staff shakeup from that standpoint. Too, because there's some several other, we got a total of 3 that are gone, right, from the original staff. But Tom, bring us up to date on that, and certainly, even though you got to know Kevin Kane, as did Dub, like the guy, but certainly the optics of that are challenging. We'll see what happens from that standpoint.
I think the word surprise is an understatement, Alan.
I'm full of understatements today.
Dumbfounded, vexed, flummoxed, shocked.
Yeah.
All gasping,
Yeah.
But again, like I said, Kane's a great guy, but the optics here are terrible. They're terrible. And no offense to Kevin Kane. I know he's not going to take any offense to it, but we all know what the resume looked like in West Lafayette. It was a disaster. And not to get into the whole sordid history of it, but remember, Ryan Walters took play calling away from him early on in 23, and he called the defense, and Kevin just was the eyes in the sky. Well, then the next year, one of the most bizarre years in football program history. Ryan Walters takes over the offense. So
Yeah.
Kevin's got to call the defense. They gave up 39 points a game, the most Purdue's ever given up in a season. Finished dead last in the Big Ten against the run, the pass, total defense, and takeaways. 1-11. And their marching Kevin came back to West Lafayette as the face of the defense, the beacon of hope, if you will, for a program coming off a 2-10 season with another bad defense. I don't know. I know Odom knows Kevin well. I'm not sure what the working arrangement is going to be. He also brought in an old buddy, Dave Steckel.
Yeah.
You guys, I don't know if you remember Les Steckel, but Les.
Yeah.
He coached the Vikings for 1 year. But anyway, Dave Steckel is an old warhorse, an old Marine. He's a tough guy. And he worked at Missouri with Barry for years. So he's going to have old Dave Steckel around to lean on too. Of course, Barry's a defensive guy. So that's some brain power on defense they've got. Who's going to call it? I'm not sure. I got to think for sure Kevin's going to be in the box. That's where he seems to do his best work. Steckel will be on the field with Barry. But yeah, we'll see. That's sent the old Dub and I's timeline became an inferno.
Mm-hmm.
Social media became an inferno. And it's you talk about a roll of the dice and a gamble. That wasn't the volley fans were thinking to go, let's go Purdue for 2026 that we all expected, but that was the first major volley we saw headed toward 2026.
Yeah. Dub, and obviously it plays into the portal and plays into recruiting too, but and I'm going to guess we're going to hear from. The timing's tough too because it's right before Christmas. No chance. Barry Odom hasn't really made any public statements about anything of late, and you got a fan base that are questioning, what direction all this is going. I'm going to guess we'll hear from Barry here in the first of the year.
Real quick, I asked to talk to Barry and Butler, Benton, and Brandon. Told they weren't going to be made available until the new year, so hopefully we'll get those guys. Dub or some combination here shortly after the new year. So here, we just got the canned statement in the press conference from Barry Odom.
Mm-hmm.
The old canned quote, open, insert, and paste. So we hope to get a better explanation soon, hopefully.
Yeah, but Dub, and it's just, again, there's a lot on that line coming into the whole notion of the portal being open and trying to maneuver that landscape over the next prior to spring practice.
Yeah, when it comes to Kane, Tom and I were talking about it. I think like maybe an hour before the news broke, of guys that we were thinking about that could be candidates, and Kevin Kane wasn't one of them. I could not believe my phone when I saw it. I think to Kane's defense, just to kind of provided an opposing argument. That was Ryan Walters' defense, his scheme. I don't know how much Kevin Kane would have liked to change that if he had his choice.
Yeah, good point.
So we'll see what he does with his own scheme, and how much leeway he has with that. So I think that's something to consider. But at the same time, you also have to look at 2023 and then 2024 and be like, man, that's a tough sell, bringing him back. But he's got a new cast of guys, and we'll see how he does. But some of the other staff changes, Cornell Ford going back to coaching running back, something he's very familiar with. He never coached wide receivers before coming to Purdue, so I think that'll be a more natural fit for him. I really like Bilal Marshall. He did some really good things at West Virginia, and obviously is a Purdue guy. So, he knows the school and knows the area well. So, those are two other ones that I was kind of high on, and I like those moves. Zach Crabtree coming from Fresno State to replace Vance Weiss. He's a Henson guy, so those two can work in tandem. And we know that Josh Henson was a offensive line coach before coming to Purdue, so or previously in his career before coming to Purdue. So I know the staffing changes outside of defensive coordinator. They're not going to wow people. They're not going to wow fans. But I think, I thought they were solid moves and moves that could pay off well for Purdue. But like you alluded to, Alan, you got to have everything set before the portal opens. If you don't, you're swimming against the tide or swimming against the current. So Purdue had to get everything set and ready to go, and then I would assume they're going to hit the ground running on January 2nd.
Yeah, Tom, you bring us up because Kevin Kane was at Minnesota last year in PJ Fleck's staff. What was his? And excuse my ignorance here, but what was his role with PJ? And any thoughts there?
I know PJ enjoyed having him on his staff. He was a senior defensive analyst up there.
Yeah.
I got a chance to see him, talk to him real quick before the game up in the Twin Cities this last fall, and it was well received. Again, Kevin's a great guy, man. I tell you,
Yeah. Hard not to like him.
I've written and marveled at how he handled himself with such a plum in the face of very trying times, and kind of taught me a lesson. I'm sure he didn't want to go out there and talk. You never would have known it. You never would have known he was.
No, he was great on that front. That's true.
But again, so we'll see. Believe me, he's the kind of guy you want to see succeed. We'll see. I think they're probably going to run Barry Odom's defense. This is Barry's deal, man. And Barry's going to make the calls. And, if I'm Barry Odom, I'm going down with what I do and what I run. Maybe a few tweaks here or there. So I tell you what will really help, better players.
Yeah, that helps.
We all know, not the X's and the O's, the Jimmys and the Joes. So everybody's schemes look a lot better when you got great players, right?
All right.
So we'll see that. That's what we'll see if they do. But Dub, I think, summed up the coaching change as well. So nice to keep Cornell Ford, a savvy veteran, a loyal soldier for Barry Odom. And again, Marshall's connections are obvious. Someone told me he was basically coaching the receivers last year. So again, he's familiar with what they have, and is the one alum still left. So sorry to see Lamar Kennard go. We'll see where Lamar surfaces. So, and Mike Shear, the quick 1-year tenure. I think Mike's going to land somewhere. I think we should hear about something here, maybe sometime in the new year after the Bowls. But we'll see where life takes him as well. A young head coach, a fiery head coach, and we'll see what the next chapter is for him. But guys, even you, Alan. I mean, I hate to be an overstatement guy, but how big is 2026 for Barry Odom?
Yeah, it gets big if whether this regime can get some traction. And Purdue's been using a winter term in Indiana. They're sliding on the ice right now. The Boilermakers are, and there is no question about that. We want to bring one other topic, and it has nothing to do directly to do with Purdue, but it still is interesting. A guy that all of us know well. We'll talk this guy, this picture, and Jeff Brohm in terms of interesting. Obviously, maybe by the time this airs, Michigan will have hired its coach. Just a quick thumbnail, and of course, that's Jeff Brohm at Wrigley Field. I think a Chad Crockover picture. It's a good picture, and his brother Greg to his right. It's going to be interesting to see. There's been a lot of talk in Purdue world about if Jeff is in fact the leading candidate. I'm skeptical, but when I say that, he'll be hired by the time this airs. But certainly an interesting development in college football world. Tom, you worked with Jeff, and Dub certainly knew of him and around him. But what do you see there?
Oh yeah, me and Jeff have a pretty good history. I see Ben Furtney back there.
Yeah. I love that picture, actually.
It sounds like reports are leaning toward Kyle Whittingham, the old Utah coach. And I think that would be the home run hire for Michigan. If they can get Kyle Whittingham, those fans would have to be ecstatic. He's a great coach.
I thought Whittingham did he didn't re-sign a deal at Utah?
No, he's retired. He stepped away. They already named another coach, but he'd be perfect. He's really what a Michigan man is about. I mean, he's not all this talk. He's the real deal as far as being a good dude. He's not going to have scandal. He was at Utah for 21 years. He followed Urban Meyer, if you can believe that.
That's right.
DC,
Yeah.
And tough, man. He's one of those tough guys, and his Utah teams are always tough, run the football. So he embodies personality-wise and style-wise everything Michigan should want. He's a defensive guy as well. So, boy, if they get Kyle, that'd be awesome. But yeah, Jeff, boy, I give Jeff credit, man. He keeps his name in the hopper.
He's got a good agent, right?
Good agent, Sean Freiberg, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, man, Jeff's a terrific coach. He's got his flaws. Everybody's got their flaws, right? But
Yeah.
Jeff, man, I tell you what, fans looking back now, it looks like a Vince Lombardi to fans, and he got out here with a winning record.
Yeah.
And again, Alan, he's the only coach that I can think of who left here on his own terms. I guess Jim Young retired for a year, but not many Purdue coaches leave here on their own. They get fired.
Yeah. Yep. And that is a rarity. And in the history of Purdue football, there haven't been all that many, right?
Great offensive mind. He's the kind of coach Purdue needs.
Yeah.
He's the kind of guy I thought Purdue was going to hire this last time. They went defense with Ryan Walters. I said Purdue's got to go offense. They got to go offense this time. They went defense again. I'm not saying a defensive guy can't win here, but a guy like Brohm, boy, I tell you what, most Saturdays, guys, when Purdue was lined up across from another team, I think Purdue had a schematic edge.
And
I
think that's ultimately what Barry Odom, you got to get back with that whole situation is get back to a situation where you have a chance to win when you walk. If you're a fan, you think your team has a chance to win. And under Jeff Brohm in his tenure at Purdue, you felt that going in. At least Purdue had a chance. He had some bad times. He was at times the family business was hard to deal with. We all know that, and I don't think he's a great match for Michigan just from that standpoint. But who the heck knows? One thing's for sure, Michigan. This is not a Michigan on-3 site, so we're not going to pretend to be. But the Wolverines need to get that hire done ASAP. Dub, anything else to add to the fray on Jeff Brohm or on that situation?
I have a hard time believing Jeff Brom's going to leave Louisville.
Yeah, I do too.
I think it'd be really interesting, and I'm not saying I wouldn't enjoy seeing him coach somewhere else, but I kind of want to see what he can do with more resources because, Purdue's resources aren't what a Michigan or a Penn State, where his name had kind of been floated out this cycle, and I don't think Louisville's is all that great either. So I think it'd be kind of cool to see what he could do with the resources of a Michigan or a Penn State or one of these big time jobs if they were to come calling. Because I mean, he's won 9+ games in his 3 years at Louisville. So he's a really good coach, and a little part of me wants him to stay at Louisville and just finish out his career and go down as a legend there. So we'll see what he does, but yeah, like you guys were talking about earlier, his name always seems to surface on Twitter.
Yeah, he's good at that.
Job's open.
I know one reason why he'd leave Louisville: $15 million a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he may get. That's right. He may get a contract here that's going to work. And I would argue, I think you're right. It's a different type of resources. There's so much more tradition at Michigan. There's plenty of resources in Louisville, but it is an interesting dynamic. All right,
hey, real quick, Alan Carper. How about Brock's back, real quick?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they're still going, right?
Play for the national championship.
Yeah, and
I'm gonna beat that drum forever.
Yeah, and good for him. I mean, I'm glad that here's a guy that's he's been to the national championship once before in 2014.
Yeah,
and of course the Illinois State Redbirds will have a chance to win it all, and that would be a great way. I don't know that Brock is at the absolute end of his career; he's getting close, and we all know what he's turned down several opportunities to be a defensive coordinator and probably double his salary. Around the Big Ten, there's been talk about that over the years, but he's a hard guy not to pull for when it comes to watching the Redbirds when their opportunity comes for the national championship. All right, last thing is as we bring the 2026 crystal ball, and you kind of both have hinted, and obviously this is going to be a big year for Purdue, but we like to make predictions, and it's so hard right now. Purdue does have a schedule that's advantageous.
Mhm.
It's literally impossible. I mean, we've talked about that till we're blue in the face. No Oregon, no Michigan, no Ohio State on that schedule. Purdue has to go to Indiana. Indiana is a blue blood, is a new blue blood, I guess, or at least a program that's going to be tough. And of course, Penn State next year. And this is really almost a silly thing to even talk about because we don't even know Purdue's roster, what it's really going to look like. But Tom, if you were going to be the Swami, can Purdue start to right the ship here in 2026?
I don't know, Alan. I'm a naysayer until I see it, I guess. And I haven't seen anything to this point to make me think this team's going to go to a bowl next year. There's just way too many unknowns right now.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to predict.
I just can't drink the Kool-Aid right now. The schedule is more advantageous.
Sure.
5 Big Ten road games, 4 at home. You know, the 3 I's are on the road. You go to UCLA and Penn State. How many of those are you going to win?
Yeah.
You got Washington, Wisconsin at home, Minnesota, Maryland at home. You got to try to make some hay there, win 3 of those. And guys, the home games, there's 3 non-con games all at home. Indiana State, your layup. Then you got ND and Wake Forest. How big is that Wake Forest game?
Yeah, it would be a big game for Purdue.
So I don't know. Maybe it's so much like it's going to depend on this portal, right?
Yeah.
See what they get out of the portal, and then of course you got to stay healthy and all those types of things too. But I think I was thinking about this walking my dog sometimes. You know what? Purdue's going to be picked to finish last in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And I remember being with Dub at Indianapolis 2 years ago, talking to Ryan Walters about that on the floor of the Hoosier Dome, or Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah.
And that was the storyline. What's it feel like to be picked last in the Big Ten? He didn't like it. So that's going to be the reality, I think, again. And everybody's going to want to have him prove it to him. So maybe Dub's more optimistic than me, but right now, I guess there's just too many X's right now. I want to think it's going to be more than 2 games, but if you can get to 4-8 or 5-7, that would be a nice step up, obviously.
Yeah. Dub, give us some hope here. No, not the top. I think it's so hard to be. You have to be realistic in this situation. Mm-hmm. We just don't know till this roster comes about. But you're right. Based on the roster that you have returning, you're 18th in the Big Ten. So that's your starting point. I think Tom's point is well taken.
Yeah, and you also don't know what most of these teams are going to look like that Purdue playing. I mean, like Indiana is really the one where you can count on. Okay, they're going to be pretty good next year again, right? I think Illinois has shown to be good over the last few years. We don't know what the heck Maryland's going to look like.
Yeah.
Washington and Minnesota have been pretty good as well. Wisconsin, you don't know what they're going to look like. UCLA with Bob Chesney, who knows? You would think Matt Campbell would get Penn State back to 9-10 wins. Iowa's always going to be solid. So even though you don't have one of the 2 big heavy hitters on next year's schedule, you still got some really tough opponents, and Purdue's going to have to win the games against programs that are kind of in their class or their pecking order in the Big Ten. So you got to get games like Maryland and UCLA and Wisconsin, which it feels weird to say Wisconsin and Purdue are closer than they've been in recent history. But like Tom said, and like you said, we just don't know what any of these teams are going to look like, really. You don't know what Indiana's going to look like even. So it's so hard to project, 6-7 months from now.
All right. Well, we will take a look at that weekly, if not daily, if not hourly after the first of the year as Dub and Tom cover.
We got 8 months now. We got 8 months.
Yeah. Until the Sycamores come calling to Ross-Ade Stadium on the 4th of September. But at my age, you never wish time away. So I'm not doing that from that standpoint. But gentlemen, thanks so much. We will take I don't know if we're going to have a short break. We're going to have a short transition into Brian Newbert, and we will talk a little Purdue basketball on the back end. I want to thank the Union Club Hotel. This is GoldandBlack.com Saturday Simulcast, and we'll look forward to Tom and Dub's work throughout the rest of rest of 2025 into 2026. And stay tuned, and we'll talk to Brian. We'll talk a little Purdue hoops as the Boilermakers take on Kent State. Kent, is it Kent or Kent State? Is it back to being Kent State?
Kent State.
Okay, all right. Kent State on Monday in Mackey Arena. So stay tuned. Brian Newbert joins us now for second segment, I should say, of GoldandBlack.com Saturday Simulcast. Thank you to the Union Club Hotel. And a reminder, too, that you can become a subscriber to GoldandBlack.com. If you missed the opportunity to give that perfect gift, it's never too late to get your Purdue fan there. Or if you're a subscriber to us on our YouTube site or a podcast platform, a great time to become a subscriber to GoldandBlack.com. Brian Newbert, you've already heard from Tom Dienhart and Dub Jellison. A lot of good writing going on, a lot of good information. Obviously, Brian's been doing it for years, and nobody does it better. I want to also, like I said, thank the Union Club Hotel for its sponsorship of this. All right, we're going to bring Brian in. We'll talk some Purdue hoops. Purdue takes on Kent State on Monday. Like I said, I'm so screwed up with the dates. It always happens over the Christmas holiday, December 29th. Against Kent State Golden Flashes, to bring, I think, a 10-2 record, and one of its assistants, of course, all-time Purdue favorite Tommy Luce to West Lafayette. Not expecting a full scouting report on the Golden Flashes, Brian, but it'll be 9 days of rust to kind of shake off, I suppose, in front of another capacity crowd in Ross-Ade, in Mackey Arena, I should say. What do you expect to see, and what does Purdue need to get out of that game, do you think?
Well, I'd expect to see a Purdue team that is rejuvenated, refreshed, riding momentum. I think I don't know how much Purdue practiced this week. Obviously, the holiday being what it is, but I think practice this time of year matters. I think it gives coaches an opportunity to kind of dial down on some things that a team has to get better at. That's just about Purdue and not about an opponent. I don't know how much of an opportunity they got to do that this week. Probably very little. When they come back from Christmas, I'm sure they dove right back into Kent State. But no, Purdue is ending 2025 in a pretty good spot. I think they've got a lot of momentum. I think they're playing very well. I think a lot of the things that you looked at in the offseason as questions, or at least curiosities, I think have panned out very well thus far. And I think Purdue still has some modest margin for improvement even.
Yeah.
I think Purdue's playing very well defensively. I think rebounding has been, and size have been, best case scenario level productivity. I think Oscar Clough and Daniel Jacobson have both been, as I always say, if you believe in a higher power that actually cares about your basketball team, I think the combination of those two guys have been a godsend for this team. I think, Braden Smith has really played well since Iowa State. He's a great player, but he is really, really playing well and really, really grabbing games by the throat and asserting his will on those games. And I think Trey Kaufman-Wren is, starting to come around after missing those first two games. I think he's bound for, another great season in a different kind of role.
Sure.
I think the shooting has been good. You can go, Fletcher Loyer can go 0 for 7 against Auburn, and you can still go 12 to 26 in a game against a high major opponent. That just speaks volumes about how deep and how deadly this team is from a 3-point perspective. But the defense has really, really been good here the last couple of games since that abomination of the second half against Iowa State. And I think that, Purdue has shown some growth from that second half against Iowa State, where you didn't shoot well and you seem to have just let that affect everything else. I think Purdue is now, if they keep playing like this, that they're insulated from, that bad shooting game should one occur again. I think this team graduated long ago from needing lessons on how to win basketball games because they have so much experience. But I think reminders are never a bad thing. And I think that Iowa State second half, while that, sucked for everybody involved in the moment, that could have been a real turning point for this already very, very, very good Purdue team.
Yeah, you look at that, and obviously you wanted that to be a learning experience, and some Purdue fans say, "Why do you keep talking about it?" Well, it's an instructive part of what's gone on in the non-conference. I mean, Purdue ranked 5th in the country, was ranked number 1. It's important. You've talked about the importance. Matt Painter's talked about the importance of being an upper echelon, being ranked number 1. Purdue hasn't shied away from its long-term goals. None of that's changed, right? I mean, in terms of what Purdue wants to accomplish this year, they just need to continue to take incremental steps to getting there.
Yeah, I think all things are possible for Purdue still. And I think that failure is what you make of it. And I think it's an important part of the process.
Yeah.
And when Purdue has slipped up over the years, when they've been really, really good, more often than not, they've made, something positive out of it. And I think that's the relevance now. As soon as losses happen, what's done is done. And it's just what you make of it. And you saw Purdue lose a game in the NCAA tournament years ago, and it was the driving force behind them, playing for a national title 12 months later or 13 months later, whatever
Right.
it was. And I think if there was any part of Purdue that got caught up in, being ranked number 1 or, being this or that from an individual perspective, getting humbled sometimes, getting punched in the face and left in the gutter, that good stuff can come from that. And that's just part of sports. That's just part of life. And I think that Iowa State second half, as much as people might be fatigued about hearing about it, could be a really significant 20 minutes of basketball in the big picture of Purdue season.
All right, Braden Smith, obviously you've talked about, he just keeps doing it better and better. And his play so far, he's having another All-American season. Whether he's going to he's got a shot at National Player of the Year, but there's been no drop off in what this guy has done for Purdue. And as you say, you said it about way back in the day with Caleb Swanigan. You said it about Zach Edey. You said that, I think maybe about Jaden Ivey. You wrote it about. This is a once-in-a-lifetime guy, and or a guy that you're not going to see anybody quite like him again in the future. But he still continues to be amazingly good.
Yes, and I think that I don't think anybody manipulates a game better in college basketball than Braden Smith. I've never seen a player at Purdue who can just command a game the way this guy can. And, but I think the really significant part of this, I'm going to get this figured out. I'm going to
okay.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick marbles. I'm going to stick like marbles or something in my ear canals and sleep that way just to stretch them out. Kind of like when you're learning to play guitar and you have to break in your hand muscles. Anyway, I don't think I've ever seen a player command games.
Yeah.
Maybe at any level. And, there's the LeBron Jameses. We're getting really, really wild with our comparisons here.
Yeah.
But in concept is what I'm talking about. He just is just a special once in a lifetime player. But what is really significant about what he's doing now is he is not just puppet mastering the offensive end, but he is really leading Purdue defensively. His energy and his will defensively since Iowa State have been precisely what leadership looks like. When your best player is giving that sort of effort and that sort of attention to detail on defense, and your other best player, Trey Kaufman-Rang, is giving that level of effort on the glass and just bullying people physically, and both of them setting this extraordinary tone for their entire team. How does everyone else not go get along for the ride there in terms of the things it takes to win tough basketball games? I think that is really, really significant for Braden Smith. There is going to come a point in time during this season where I think Braden Smith is not defined by scoring in any way, shape, or form. but I think his ability to control a basketball game offensively too relies on, the threat he poses as a scorer to a certain extent. And I think, to this point this season, he's been able to just kind of command games and just, play for assists and play for everybody else and empower everyone else to go win the game. But I think there are going to come some games this year, some big games this year, where he's going to have to really look to score and then play off that. I'm thinking about Michigan when they have the big 7'8" kid on the floor that he chased off the floor last year when UCLA was at Purdue. He's going to have to look for his offense, first and foremost, and play off that. He can go get you 20, but if he gets you 20, he can still get you 12 assists too. That's the two things are not mutually exclusive from one another. But I think that's going to be an important part of his season to come too, is to not settle for being one or the other.
Yeah, Omer Meyer and really the Purdue bench. I'm just because we happen to have a picture of him. I didn't load one of Jack Benner. Of course, Jack Benner hit 3 threes. I think it was against Auburn. I'm talking more I don't say the deeper bench. I mean, Jakari Harris and CJ Cox are kind of, as you well documented, pretty interchangeable. But the play of those guys and the play of Meyer, of Benter, I guess maybe Harris off the bench as well. But Daniel Jacobson's kind of a half starter with, or at least complementary totally to what Oscar Clough does. But talk about the importance of those guys and what you've seen from them as they continue to make their way towards their first conference, full slate of conference games, I should say, starting January 3rd at Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think that, CJ Cox is the starter. So lumping him in here is not entirely accurate. But again, when you play Auburn and Fletcher Loyer can go 0 for 7 and Braden Smith can go 1 of 3 from 3-point range and you can still go 12 to 26, it's because CJ Cox is making 4 threes. Jakari Harris is coming off the bench making 4 threes, and Jack Benner is going 3 for 3 off the bench in place of Trey Kaufman-Renn. And you have a viable backup point guard now in Omer Meyer, and that probably is helping Braden Smith. It's entirely conceivable that part of his defensive energy right now is the understanding that, hey, he can come out of games.
Yeah.
I can't read his mind, but it can't not be helping him in some way, shape, or form to know that if I have to come out of the game, it's covered, and it's covered by a guy who I have taken under my wing and I have shown the ropes to, and who's my honest to God friend, stuff like that. Daniel Jacobson is becoming really good. I think he is becoming, at the risk of speaking too soon, I think he's becoming a guy who's profiling as Purdue's next really good big guy. I think his development into that guy for the future of Purdue's program, I think, was an important undercurrent story to this season. And I think what you've seen from him as he continues to get into playing shape and as he continues to get back in the swing of actually playing after sitting out last season, what you've seen from him the last couple of games and this season as a whole has been really, really encouraging. The high productivity offense around the rim, the high efficiency offense around the rim fills a huge gap for Purdue, where Purdue wasn't very good last year.
Yeah.
The shot blocking, the rebounding, transformative for Purdue, but he's playing more physical. I think he's up to the level of physical play that he's going to see in the Big Ten. That doesn't mean people aren't going to try to punch him in the kidneys or hold him on his rolls to the basket when you start playing Northwestern and Maryland and people who are going to be overwhelmed by your talent and are going to have to dirty the game up. But I think that he is really showing he's really coming of age right now. And as you mentioned, the Oscar Clough, Daniel Jacobson thing isn't a starter backup thing. It's a 1A, 1B co-starter kind of thing. And I think both of them have been really good. And I think you will see games at a lot of positions, whether it's CJ Cox and Jakari Harris, whether it's Daniel Jacobson or Oscar Clough, where one night it might be one guy who's better than the other, and one night you might see the other guy be better than the other guy. I think you saw that against Auburn, where Daniel Jacobson was a little bit better than Oscar Clough, a little more productive. The game fit him a little better. Both C.J. Cox and Jakari Harris were really good shooting the basketball. Both were very good defensively, and I think that might not be the case every single night. And one or the other is gonna balance it all out. So Purdue's got a really good situation going on here. All these guys seem cool with their roles. All of them, are fitting that model from a couple of years ago where they want to win. I don't think Jack Benner is going to be sitting there being like, man, I can't believe that Trey Kaufman plays more than me. I don't think it's a big deal to Jakari Harris that CJ Cox is starting over him. I don't think it's a big deal to Daniel Jacobson that Oscar Clough is starting over him. I think Purdue's got a really good situation here from a depth perspective, a numbers perspective, but also the proper sort of collective mindset to make this all work. And that's a hell of a situation to have. And a situation Matt Painter's been able to cultivate regularly over the years, which is, really hard to do.
Yeah. All right. I want to ask you, and again, the Big Ten race right now, the flavor of the month, and rightfully so, the way that the Wolverines have played Michigan. I don't know if they're any more a favorite than Purdue, but they certainly have got off to a huge hot start. Illinois figures to be up there in addition to Michigan State. This is going to be an interesting race. Purdue opens the Big Ten play up at Wisconsin again on the 3rd of January, then comes home to Washington and Penn State. It's going to be, and then I believe Iowa too, in terms of 3 out of the first 4 games at home. But just your pocket analysis of the Big Ten race, you have to think that people, and I know you've talked about this, teams will scout, coaches will scout teams and figure out ways to maybe slow down a team like Michigan, who's scoring in big numbers a lot of times. But what do you see from a December 27th perspective? How do you handicap the Big Ten race at this point?
Yeah, I think that, Purdue's got a huge advantage in that Michigan comes to Mackey Arena, Michigan State comes to Mackey Arena, Illinois comes to Mackey Arena. It's a huge advantage, and anybody who pegs anyone other than Purdue as the Big Ten favorite at this point has not looked at the schedule. It's just a huge advantage, and it's to the point too where Purdue could afford to lose one of those games and still be in a pretty good situation. I think the Michigan game is obviously going to be the game of the year, probably in the Big Ten when Michigan comes to Purdue. We will see where Michigan is now that everybody has scouted the hell out of them. We will see if Michigan's size, can be the same advantage against Purdue that it's been against everybody else. We will see if Ade Mara can guard a ball screen, which he could not last year against Braden Smith. Purdue still has the best guard in college basketball, and that's going to be a big advantage against everybody they play. But the Big Ten's never easy, and it's about winning all those road games, on those sleepy Tuesday nights. It's about winning at Nebraska when Nebraska has been really good.
And Nebraska, I should have mentioned
this
them.
season.
Yeah.
Yes, they've been really good this season. We'll see how enduring that is for them. But Nebraska is never an easy place to play, as Purdue can tell you better than anybody. But the reality is that this is the moment in the college basketball schedule where everything you can do or everything you're good at, everything you're not good at is now out there. And all of these coaches are good at their jobs, and they are going to be on top of things. They're going to have counters for counters. You have to be ready to play off things when they get taken away. And I think Purdue's very well built to be doing that. And as long as Purdue keeps defending and rebounding the way they're defending and rebounding right now, and they play with the maturity that their experience should give them, and they play consistently and don't, phone any in, which I don't see any real red flags as to that being forthcoming. I think that Purdue's in a pretty good spot here, and the schedule has a lot to do with it. You got to win in Bloomington when you're better than them. That's been a challenge for Purdue the last several years.
It almost always is, yeah.
You can't afford to lose at wherever.
They're going to go to Nebraska, right?
Maryland. Well, I'm counting
Yeah.
Nebraska as being
Tough one anyway.
legit. So
Yeah.
if you lose there, it's not the end of the world. You just can't, flub one. The way Purdue has opened every Big Ten season doing. That's why the leaving no doubt at Rutgers part of this was, significant. Was that was a trap for Purdue every year, and getting that out of the way was a big deal without any incident whatsoever. But playing at UCLA is going to be tough. Playing at USC is going to be tough. Coming back from that trip is going to be tough.
Yeah, you got Illinois right on the heels of that. That's right.
Yes.
That's tough. You got USC,
we'll see where,
UCLA.
We'll see where Illinois is at this time of year. There's going to be some inconsistency with some of these teams. There just is. Michigan's going to lose a game it shouldn't lose, probably. The West Coast teams are going to lose games in the Midwest when they're the better team on paper. Purdue just has to be mature enough and consistent enough to try to avoid that kind of thing at all costs. And not to say they wouldn't ordinarily, but sometimes it's just kind of the nature of the beast. So I still think Purdue's in a really good spot here.
All right, we're gonna close out 2026, at least from a GoldandBlack.com Saturday Simulcast perspective. I wanted to get your take, as you're not a hot take guy, but you're very thoughtful. So you mentioned you talked to the folks at the Wolverine. Jeff Brohm is certainly a rumored to be a leading candidate for the job at Michigan, and just talk about that fit. And again, we haven't been around Jeff Brohm on a daily basis for 3 years now, but and I don't know that he's going to get that job. We'll see. But you had an interesting comment in your comment to the Wolverine about where this
Did
fits.
they publish that?
Yeah, it's up there. It's well, you didn't say anything you shouldn't have said. Not that you're a big boy, you can handle yourself. But yes, I think they posted some comments about Brohm and his time at Purdue. But what's your view on just from that fit standpoint up at Michigan?
Well, it sounds like they're going to hire Kyle Whittingham, which was the best hire they possibly could have made all along. I don't know. Right. I think they got Brohmed. I think they got. I think this was another classic. Jeff Brohm, Sean Freebert, smokescreen, and
he's good at that.
Whatever. They're very good at that, and they I think saw an opportunity in this wild college football hiring cycle to get their name out there, to play their cards, to play their leverage, and it never made sense because when you're at Michigan, the job is bigger than you. The coach is not bigger than the job. And I think everywhere Jeff Brohm has been, the coach has been bigger than the job.
Yeah, good point.
And I think at Michigan, you have to acquiesce to certain, protocols in terms of building a program. And I've always described the Brohms as very good at being house flippers.
Yeah.
But not being very dedicated to being house builders. And I think at Michigan, you have to recruit linemen. You have to cultivate a physical type of football. You have to be disciplined. And I think that's all the opposite of what Jeff Brohm has been during his very successful coaching career. I think he's very good at doing what he needs to do to get a couple of really exciting players, being creative on offense, things like that, injecting some energy into a program over the short term. But when you're Michigan, you need, something sustainable. And the game has kind of morphed into Jeff Brohm's favor, where now that you can pay players to go get those 3 or 4 difference makers every single year, I think it's a little bit easier to do things the way they do things in an endurable manner. But under the previous system, before money was really out in the open, I think when you look at Western Kentucky, when you look at Purdue, everywhere he's left in shambles. And that, I think that speaks to their quick fix sort of way of doing things and not building things in an endurable manner. And I think that when you're Michigan, why you'd sign up for that would just be beyond me. It never made any sense. I think this was a PSYOPs campaign all along, and They did this with Tennessee when he was at Purdue. I'm not convinced he was offered that job. He has always, very, very publicly flirted with other jobs, kept it out in the open, kept his name in the headlines. And that's how you advance careers sometimes. It's just, you are also kind of disrespecting the job you have at the time when you're sitting there flirting with other people. That he did it to Louisville surprises me, but only to a point.
Yeah.
I didn't think he'd ever leave Louisville, but I don't know if he's going to stay there his whole career either. So, he kind of made that destination move from Purdue pretty early in his career. So if he signed up to stay at Louisville for, 25 years, that would be a little bit against his nature, I think. But that they're doing the publicity thing again to tie his name to every available job. Remember, his name was out there for Penn State too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whether that was legitimate or not, I have no idea. But it wouldn't surprise me that, if they called him, but being called and being offered a job and actually interviewing for a job, those are two different things. And it never made sense with Michigan. And that's what I tried to tell our colleagues at Michigan was, man, you got to be careful. You need to hear this from Michigan before you run with it. And the Brohms are really good at finding a useful, all due respect, idiot in the media to put things out there. And I think they did that here with one of the other media members who covers Michigan, who has some ties to some people on Jeff Brohm's staff. And this just kind of took off. And I'm not sure it was ever
all that
really real. But I think Kyle Whittingham is the perfect hire for them if that's who they end up with. And it is a classic example of, in college football, everything finds its way back to where it's supposed to be. Like, Penn State has a scandal. They end up coming out of it better than ever, as good as ever. Ohio State has a scandal. They end up winning national titles like a year later. Michigan has a bunch of scandals, and they're going to end up with a better coach than they had before. So it is college football at its best. Nothing sinks a brand.
Yeah. And hopefully, if you're a Purdue fan, the Boilermakers can find a way to play in that sandbox a little bit better than what we've seen the last couple of years. All right, Brian, that will end. I hate to end your GoldandBlack.com Saturday simulcast on a Jeff Brohm note, but well articulated, an interesting topic to say the least. All right, look for Brian's work. He'll have a talking Purdue Kent State preview and et cetera at the end of this weekend. And Purdue takes on Kent State on Monday, and of course his roundball roundups. Great stuff there, and a lot of great analysis. As Brian tries to remind folks, we do still write, and Brian especially, and Tom and Dub, and there's a lot of good written stuff on GoldandBlack.com. So, Brian, have a good rest of your Saturday, and get ready for the game again for Monday. I know you'll do that as we get back into playing basketball on a regular basis. But thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. And maybe we'll see you 3 or 4 times in 2025.
Yeah, let's hope so. Okay. All right. I want to thank our sponsor, of course, the Union Club Hotel, Purdue Union Club Hotel. We appreciate them. And we will be back. We will do GoldandBlack.com Saturday simulcast regularly, but on weekends where Purdue plays on Saturday, Brian's does a great job with this rap video. Will kind of suffice for that a lot of those times. But weekends when Purdue doesn't play, we may. And when we have other topics to discuss, we'll hit that as well. So keep that in mind as well as we move forward throughout 2026. Brian and Tom and Dub have a lot to say about what's going on in Purdue sports. All right. Thanks again to the Union Club Hotel. Happy New Year to everybody. And if you're traveling, have a safe New Year, and we'll look forward to a great 2026. Thanks again.
As you all know by now, Gold and Black Radio has also teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet. Offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that can expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.